Faculty, staff, and students, I have the singular honor of introducing our new interim president to the college community. Dr. Denise Maybank, is coming from us from CUNY Central Office, where she serves as the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management. Prior to that, Dr. Maybank served at Michigan State University as the Vice President and Associate Vice Provost for Student Affairs. It's my honor to introduce her today. She is well versed in higher ed, having a long experience, 15-year tenure at MSU, Michigan State University, and coming to CUNY and to us. From those of us who've heard her briefly over the past days, see her student-centered, very supportive of the college, very much invested in the mission, and is very much committed to seeing that Medgar has the visibility that it deserves. So I have this honor to please join me in welcoming our interim president, Dr. Denise Maybank.
Thank you. This is such an honor for me. Today is my 123rd day in my return to CUNY. So I was here before, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but this opportunity is unlike anything else I could have imagined even. This is a privilege to have this opportunity to serve Medgar Evers College, to participate in the life, the reality, and the future of this college is an unexpected dream come true. I want to talk a little bit about who I am today, who we are together, and what we will accomplish for whatever period of time I get to serve in the role of interim president. When I was asked, there was no question for me. Of course, that is what I want to do. Of course, I'll step into that space. And if you know anything about how things get done at CUNY, of course, I'll do it while I'm doing the other things I came to do as well. And it's all good. I'm loving every second of it. So I want to introduce you to me. I want you to know something about my background. I want to keep you from having to do the Google search. I want you to be able to say, oh yeah, I know a little bit about her, and be able to pull something up at any given moment. And so that's what I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to do as I open this opportunity. I want you to know that I am a New Yorker through and through. No matter where I have lived in the country, I say I'm a New Yorker living in whatever the city or state might be. And that's the way I identify. I was born in Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. This may be more than you want to know or need to know, but I'm going to share it anyway, just for the connections. I was born in Columbia Presbyterian Hospital and raised in Washington Heights. And when I was in elementary school, we moved to Harlem, to Esplanade Gardens. If you know anything about that space on 145th to about 148th Street, Lenox to 7th Avenue, which I think is now Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard. So that's the area where I spent most of my developing years. And from there, I went to the High School of Music and Art. I went as an art student, but they let me take voice classes in my last year because all of my friends were music majors and voice majors at that. And I always sang in church, in the choir somehow. And so that was important to me. And they let me do that while I was at Music and Art, and it was wonderful. Right across the street from the High School of Music and Art was the City College. And that, for me, captured my attention. As a first generation college student, I will tell you, I didn't necessarily have a whole lot of information about what went on a college campus. And so my exposure was at City College for the first experiences. And I was the kid in my family who wasn't going to give them a whole lot of trouble. I loved books. I loved learning. I loved reading. I was willing to stay in the house and just play with the dolls and the stuffed animals and read and do whatever, to the point that my mother would often say to me, "Why don't you go outside and let the air blow on you?" But nevertheless, I figured out that there was something called college across the street. And for the first time in my life and experience, I cut class because of City College hosting Earth, Wind, and Fire. And it's probably the only time I wasn't where I was supposed to be, but it was worth every minute of it. And I had quite the opportunity and quite the time out on the quad of City College. But it started me to thinking about what it meant to be a college student and how I was going to do that, because I started to learn more and more about what you could do in education. And I heard that there was something called a PhD. And that was kind of like that, the terminal degree, the highest thing you could get, that kind of thing. And I said, well, I'm going to get me one of those one day. And then just started going to school and doing what I needed to do and amassing education, amassing knowledge, and loving every minute of it. So I went to Brooklyn College. I selected Brooklyn College of the City University system colleges because they had a performance-based elementary education program. And it exposed me to the borough of Brooklyn. I would ride the number 3 train from Harlem, from one end of that number 3 train line to the other end. And I'd get off at Flatbush and make my way over to the Brooklyn College campus. And from there, as I was placed in different schools around the borough of Brooklyn, I became more acquainted with that borough and loved that borough even then. I then went to Columbia University for a master's degree in educational administration, and then on to Michigan State University for a doctoral degree in counseling and school psychology. And so, yes, that dream of having that doctoral degree was fulfilled. And I had to leave New York to make it happen because I think I was just involved in too many things. But always, my life was linked to young people. I thought I might be a pediatrician at one point early in my life, but as I figured out that I really had a love for education, it was the place that I needed to be and wanted to be. So though that's the education side of my life, I've had experiences in certainly teaching and in administration in K-12, as well as in college experiences. But I also worked in the area of teen pregnancy. And I ran a program in the Bronx called TAPCAP, the Adolescent Care and Prevention Program. That was one of the first federally funded programs under the federal office for teen pregnancy. And we had the opportunity to work with young people across the Bronx. And it was amazing to watch these young people develop and to start to think about their lives and to try to figure out how they advanced who they were. But the connection for me was young people and urban student populations. And so I had that opportunity and loved every minute of that. I had the privilege of working for state government as well on teen pregnancy issues. And then I went out to Michigan State University to fulfill the dream of getting the doctoral degree. When I left Michigan State University, I came back east and I worked in New Jersey, the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey at their osteopathic school in Stratford, New Jersey. I had the opportunity to also be on the faculty of Trenton State, what is now the College of New Jersey. And then went to Nebraska And I often let people know that friends of mine in New York told me, they said, okay, now you're going into the middle of the country. If you fly into LaGuardia Airport and you have on gingham, all kinds of alarms are going on and we're coming to do an intervention. Didn't happen, don't worry. But nevertheless, I moved into the middle of the country and learned that when I was in Michigan, I had not yet made it into the middle of the country. I had not lived in the Midwest until I showed up in Nebraska, according to Nebraskans. And so I had that experience in the heartland. And I was a New Yorker living in Omaha and loving it. It was great. All of those opportunities exposed me to different higher education institutions, to different higher education experiences that have allowed the repertoire of things that I know, the tools in my tool belt to be broadened by those experiences. And I bring all of that to Medgar Evers at this point. Once I left Nebraska, I was invited back to Michigan. And so you heard at Michigan State University, which is the place I just most recently left 123 days ago, I was the vice president and associate provost for student affairs. And for 50 some odd thousand students, just the rough number, it was an experience that took me through a lot of different twists and turns. There were protests. There were amazing things that happened. There was a brand new contemporary art museum that was built on the campus while I was there. There was the cyclotron next iteration that happened that caused science to be of interest to me on that campus. And then I found out that there was an opportunity for me to come back to my alma mater in New York, to CUNY, and to serve in the role of vice chancellor for student affairs and enrollment management. So all of the things that I had experienced, all of the opportunities I had, all of the things that were so wonderful for me, I now got to use in a space that mattered to my heart, for a population of students that remain critical for me. So why is this opportunity important to me? Why is being the interim president of Medgar something that I could jump at so easily? It's because I was a first generation college student, being raised in New York City and understanding just what that means. It is because of a woman who served as a domestic worker for years so that she would make certain her children had all of the things that she thought they should have exposure to and opportunity for. And it is because of a man who was a welder, who worked at the Brooklyn Navy Yard for years, and then for the New York transit system as a welder also. My parents, Lottie and Andy Maybank, neither of them with a college degree, always encouraged my interest, my desire, and my hopes and dreams in education. My mother had an 8th grade education. My father was a high school graduate. And for sport, my father would take civil service exams. And I never understood that. I'm going like, okay, he's got the book and he's studying, and he and a friend of his would always on Saturdays get together and go do this and take these exams. And I finally figured out they were linked to positions in the civil service system in New York. And I'd say, well, Daddy, you're going to get a new job? And he'd say, no. And I would start to wonder and try to figure out, well, why are you doing that? And it was just his interest in knowledge, in understanding, and expanding his repertoire in some way. And sometimes, yes, it did lead to a promotion for him, but more often than not, it was just the studying and the doing. And that was the image I had. and a mother who just kept me encouraged. So as I expanded my knowledge and my borders through education, I started to recognize how important the transformative power of education is for our communities. And that is a big part of why this is important to me. I want to talk about who we are at Medgar Evers: courage, strength, and fortitude. Every one of the 4,181, yes, and don't try to round up, don't round down, don't get rid of that one on the end, because every single student matters. 4,181 currently. Each of them is an unduplicated miracle, and we have to treat them as such. The faces that I think about when I think about students are faces of hope, and we owe them the experiences that will cultivate, that will nurture, and cause them to experience in total their goals and their dreams. And that is what Medgar Evers is about. Medgar Evers is about legacy. Legacy that is associated with the man for whom we are named. There is no doubt in my mind that that is not by happenstance, that it is not by chance, but it is about who Medgar Evers was and all that he set out to do. It was about making certain that Black people had the right to vote, that there was a way for them to register and make certain that their voices were a part of moving the agenda in the United States. And that is a legacy that is undeniable, a legacy that we must honor every day, a legacy that we have to live up to and make certain we support in everything we do. I think the quote that is most often associated with Medgar Evers was prophetic in so many ways. You can kill a man, but you can't kill an idea. And he planted ideas and seeds for what needed to be and what needed to happen that allow us to be who we are today, to allow us to be able to talk about the fact that there was an African-American president in these United States. The fact that there is a Black woman in the seat of vice president for these United States. That's about Medgar Evers. That's about who he was, what he did, and the ideas he stood for. And they live on in us, in what we do, and in how we do it. This is a proud legacy, one that we can't take for granted. This is a legacy that we must embrace, that we must honor, and that we must be certain continues. The reason for which Medgar Evers was created is not just one from history. It is a now reason. It is the reason that is associated with the way our society functions. It is about social injustice. It is about racial injustice, and it is about assuring justice for populations that live in places like the community in Brooklyn where we sit, but also all across the world. And so our space, our existence is linked to legacy. Who we are, what we do, and how we do it matters. It is about opportunity. It is Medgar Evers College is about the opportunity that is set before populations of students, community members, and those who are seeking to know just a bit more, to be touched by that transformative power of education. Maya Angelou has a quote that is credited with a quote that says, "Life is not measured by the numbers of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away." And that is what we get to do at Medgar Evers College. We get to create those moments that take the breath away of young people every day, of those that are members of our immediate community, and those who are touched by the centers and the experiences that we allow others to see. It takes your breath away. And Medgar Evers College must live up to that. We must continue to move forward in letting people know there will be breathless moments at every turn. And every time you think about something that you want to do, you want to accomplish, that will make a difference for someone in your life or your proximity, you can do that through your interaction with someone from Medgar Evers College. We are about social mobility. We know that CUNY talks about social mobility and being an engine of such. Medgar Evers is clearly that. When you think about the students, and there is a face that you get in front of you who are able to come to Medgar Evers and change the trajectory of the life of their family. That is about social mobility. It is about moving from a place where you start to wonder what your income will be and start to recognize that it can be so much more than you ever dreamed. It is about recognizing that you can walk in places and spaces and start to set policy because you are a legislator in the city of New York or in the state of New York or in the federal spaces and places. You can be that person who is a contributor to finding the cure for the diseases that plague our world. You can be that person that makes the difference in helping others to think about their health, their well-being, and what will happen for their families. Social mobility is about moving not just the individual, but moving the family, moving the community, moving the world. And that is what happens from Medgar Evers. We give people a place to stand that is firm, that then allows them to just change the world. And that's what this is about. We are about destiny. Destiny can be determined by who you want to be. Destiny can be determined by what you have to offer and what you have to give. But destiny undoubtedly must be fulfilled for all of us to be who we need to be. I need you to fulfill your destiny so I can fulfill mine. And my destiny is now inextricably linked to you and to Medgar Evers College. And we have to get it right. No matter how long I'm here, that is my objective, to make sure that we get it right. So it is undeniable that I get to leave a part of me with you. And I'm going to be so excited to be able to tell folks I did that. I want you to know my connection to the Evers family. In 2017, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commission of Mid-Michigan invited Mrs. Merle Evers Williams to be the keynote speaker for our rather large luncheon held in Lansing, Michigan. It was the year that India Arie was the entertainment. And I sat and listened to Mrs. Merle Evers Williams as our keynote speaker that day, just amazed at who she is, the life she lived, the things she encountered, and the way she was making a mark. I don't know that she'll remember that, but my plan in interacting with the family is to assure them for whatever time I get to lead and to be the interim president and to partner with all of those associated with Medgar Evers College, I will have that image in my mind of her standing on that stage and speaking directly to me. That is destiny. I would never have thought I'd have this opportunity, but here I am in that moment of destiny. And so I intend to embrace the legacy, the opportunity, and the destiny of Medgar Evers College. What will we accomplish? There's a lot to be done. I have asked Glenda Grace, Senior Vice Chancellor Glenda Grace, to join me today, and I hope we've been able to make that connection. But if not, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I'd like for her to be able to share with us what it is that we can expect going forward over the course of the next few weeks, the next few months, as we lead into the identification of the next president for Medgar Evers College. I want you to know, I'm sorry.
You tell me when to talk.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you so much. I'm glad you're there, and that's the most important thing. So I will make sure to turn it over to you in just a second. But I want you all to know that for me, what we will accomplish is about visibility and prominence. And we will be sure to make that happen. So I'm going to turn it over to Senior Vice Chancellor Glenda Grace, who has become an amazing colleague, partner, and friend in my 123 days. So Glenda, please.
Well, thank you, Interim President Maybank. First, I want to just echo a couple of thoughts that President Maybank said. And first, just that we're committed to getting it right. And I think starting with an interim president who is so committed and who is so dedicated to Medgar is a big deal. And I hope it shows Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez's support and commitment to Medgar. And just in terms of moving forward, I just want to talk a little bit about what that means practically, right? Yeah, we have our interim president in place. The great thing about Denise, and I'll call her Denise, I'm kind of informal. That's one of the things that's part of who I am. But the great thing about Denise isn't going to be serving you for 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 16 weeks. She's going to continue to work with you and to help you in her role at CUNY. And so I'm going to describe what CUNY is going to do to help during this transition, and also some of the things that will continue past the transition. Now, there are going to be 3 things that are going on. One starting immediately, a second starting in the next couple of weeks, and a third that will start a couple of weeks before the president comes, whenever that happens. So first, I'm leading a working group at CUNY with CUNY executives to help talk to individuals in specific areas at the college, just to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, really, and also to help if there are things right now that need to be done and additional resources are needed to get those things done. We're focusing on things like IT, student services, enrollment, finance, and just institutional research. So we will be talking to a number of people, just getting people's insight. We're in the process of deciding who we're going to talk to, and we will be announcing or giving more information about that as soon as that happens. We plan to have something to give to the new president to help him or her as they start. Second, we are also putting together, the chancellor and the board of trustees are putting together a team of people who are external to Medgar. There are people within the community, an advisory group that will assist with partnerships and vision from the viewpoint of the Brooklyn community. That is being put together as we speak, and when that is done, we will announce that. Now, all of these things, these two groups, the internal group and the external advisory group, are something that normally doesn't happen during a transition. But because there's just been a lot of challenges, we think this gives the new president and Medgar the best opportunity to prosper and to deliver the mission that it needs to deliver on. But there's also going to be a group that happens at every single school when there's a transition, and that's a presidential transition team. It's a group of people who exist. They include people at the college, some folks external to the college, and some CUNY folks. So there'll be a presidential transition team that's put together right before the president starts, whenever that happens, that will work for the next year, at least, to help with the transition. So I hope that's giving you an overview of just specifically what we plan to do. This internal group right now on the ground within the next week or two, we'll start interviews with groups of people, just getting an assessment about what needs to be done now and helping identify what can be done now and what we need to be on the lookout for. The external advisory group to make sure that there's that clear and effective connection to the Brooklyn community, to make sure that all the partnerships are in place that need to be to help our faculty, staff, and our students take advantage of what they need to take advantage of to be as successful as possible. And then there'll be the third group, the presidential transition team, that will be on the ground when the new president starts to make sure that this transition is smooth and effective and efficient, so that we can get on with doing the work that you do and are committed to doing. So I want to make sure that I've answered all questions that I'm supposed to. Like I said, I think Denise is a wonderfully committed person who is going to be with you during this time of transition, and even more importantly, will be with you when the transition starts with the new president in place, continuing to give support, to give her heart, not just her heart, not just words, but also her efforts and her work. So really appreciate that. And I'm excited for this next chapter and Medgar's advancement.
Thank you so much, Glenda. I so appreciate you. And I thank you for joining me today for this opportunity. I want you all to know that I am not just in a seat for a moment in time. As you heard Glenda say, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be committed to seeing through the things that are important that I can touch, that are within my purview in my role as Vice Chancellor, but also while I am in the seat as the interim president. I want a win, a big win for Medgar in that time frame. I don't care if that happens in 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. You deserve that. You deserve visibility. You deserve prominence. And those are the things that I want to work toward. So I want to make sure that the support is there, that the promotion is there, and that we are advancing those things that will matter most for the 4,181 of the most amazing young people anywhere, to be certain that they can do what they need to do from the place they stand at Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn, New York. So as we think about those things, I want to address enrollment for you for just a moment. So yes, I will be bringing the whole configuration of individuals and plans and processes that we are looking at for CUNY broadly, all of that will be available to Medgar Evers now. And we will be looking at enrollment. We will be figuring out what the enrollment mix needs to be for the success of Medgar Evers College going forward, what the mix needs to be in order to meet the financial and budgetary expectations for Medgar Evers, and what that mix needs to be for the optimal academic experience for those who choose Medgar, and they will choose Medgar for their advanced education. And so that is what we will be about. We will make sure that we are looking at projections for the next 5 years in terms of enrollment, not just what will happen in fall, but what will happen beyond that. And we'll be doing that. We'll promote the programs that are happening in the health sciences. We'll make sure that our graduates are a part of everything that is going on in our city right now. And just as we are a vaccination site, we are visible for that, and we will continue to be visible beyond that. So as this group of individuals assigned by our chancellor, from the heart of knowing that Medgar can use the support to make it all that it needs to be and to build its foundation, we will take full advantage of their expertise and the opportunity to grow the things that are meaningful for what needs to happen to place Medgar on that pedestal where it needs to be, in the limelight that it deserves, and to move us forward so that we become the destination for so many. As a predominantly Black institution, we become the shining light in the city of New York for those who might think they couldn't get it done any other way. And we have to have arms open wide to accept them, to let them know that they belong at Medgar Evers College. I don't care what the age is. I don't care what the stage is. If there is something we can support you in and through, come to Medgar Evers. And that's the message we want to make sure is out there. And we will do it with the utmost quality and excellence. But we will need each other. It is about partnership. It is about coming together. And it is about making sure that we are there to support one another in each space, to scaffold those things that need to grow more and that might need a little support during the time. That's what we'll be about. Gwendolyn Brooks said, "We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. And so together, we will support one another to make certain that the reputation, that the experiences, and all that happens at Medgar is all that we need it to be. We will be proud of every breath that we take away with some experience at Medgar Evers College." And so as our time is drawing to a close, I tried to weave in responses to the questions we received and to try to make sure that we addressed some of them, if not all of them, and gladly will continue to take questions and be responsive to the things that are important to you. But I will say to you that we need to make certain we have a unity of heart, a unity of mind, and unity in action. I'm here to promote Medgar Evers College. I am here to help elevate the programs and the experiences. And I am here to amplify your voices within CUNY, across the city, the state, and however much further I can take it to the world. I would ask that we think about the history-making legacy for the person we are named. When we think of Medgar Evers and his contributions to making sure we could be where we are today, I ask you to think about linking that legacy to the history-making mark of the day that is embodied by the first Black woman vice president of these United States, Kamala Harris. You may have heard during the campaigning and everything, there was an interview that was done with now Vice President Harris. And it was about the things that she had encountered. All of the ways in which doors may have been closed or people attempted to close those doors. And she said the following. She said, "I eat no for breakfast." Medgar Evers College, I want you to know it's our time. It's our turn. We will eat no for breakfast, and we will make it happen in Brooklyn, in New York, and let the world know just what we're made of. And I am so honored to be able to be a part of that for, as I said, however long that might be. But I'm fully in. I shared with the Academic Council yesterday that I believe leadership is about the hokey pokey. I really do. And if you think about the hokey pokey, you know that it's that opportunity where we get to do the little dance and to say all the pieces. And so, yeah, it goes, you put your right hand in, you take your right hand out, you put your right hand in and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around, and that's what it's all about. So what if that really is what it's all about? What I want you to know is that the leadership of Medgar Evers College is about knowing how much of each of us has to be in to make it happen, because that's what it's going to be about. It's going to call for some of us stepping in, some of us stepping back to make room for others. And there'll be those times when we have to put our whole self in to make certain that we move it all forward and live up to the name of Medgar Evers College. So thank you all for joining me today. I look forward to working with you all. Greatly appreciate it.